So, the Better Balance game mod just dropped what is, in the developer's own words, the biggest update they've ever done. Currently, it's still in a beta, and changes are still being made frequently, but since most public CPL lobbies are currently using the beta, I figured I'd give a rundown of the patch notes alongside my take on how these changes are likely to affect the free-for-all meta. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Okay, so we have the patch notes in front of us here. First off, they are hitting us with some of the heaviest changes right away. All technologies after the classical era now cost 5% more. So, this is clearly intended to try to slow down the game a bit. Let me give some context on the current meta. Basically, if I open the tech tree here, I have the game open here just so I can show you some things. What people would do is they would first go up here. Well, first they'd get the district they want in the early game. We'll say currency. Then they go to apprenticeship for the +1 production on all mines. Obviously, they pick up mining before then, so it'd be like currency, mining, apprenticeship. This is a rough outline. And then they might pick up whatever they need from the medieval era. Like they might want aqueducts for industrial zone adjacency. Then they get the military engineering to reveal niter, get some extra yields, allow them to build an armory so they can get this Eureka and get this Eureka for having a military engineer building forts. And then they would pick up bronze working maybe if they need to remove rainforest. Then education so that they can get universities up. Right, that's the whole early game pathing. And then you go up here, industrialization. So this is the first thing that might be different with techs being more expensive. And to be clear, techs aren't just more expensive. Let me talk about the second bit. The era gate is increased to 30% from technologies. Era gate is a game mechanic where when you're currently researching a civic/technology from an era ahead of the current game era, the cost is increased. Basically, right, we're in the ancient era right now, and in 30 turns we'll be in the classical era. So since we're in the ancient era, all of the classical era techs are more expensive by 30% now. It used to be 20%, now it's 30%. But once we enter the classical era, all of these techs will get cheaper, but these techs will still be 30% more expensive now. Previously 20%. Now, this does not stack, right? If something is from 2 eras ahead, it is not like more expensive than it would be if it were just 1 era ahead, right? It's only like it's either from a future game era and it gets the era gate increase, or it's not from a future era game era and it doesn't. All right. So basically, this slows down certain tech pathings where it's like you're just bum rushing this. So typically, you would get to industrialization either usually during the medieval era, honestly. Like you would go pen, brush, and voice, then in the medieval era you would go free inquiries or golden age dedication. You make it all the way here. All of these techs are going to be more expensive, right? Not only are they 5% more expensive in general, the era gate's higher, so it's more like 15% more expensive. And one of the problems with this is that a tech pathing like this, which was very typical previously, would leave you extremely vulnerable to somebody who just clicks ballistics and has oh, I'm playing Poland here, so I have a cuirassier replacement down here at Reformed Church. But like imagine I had cuirassiers right here. You could just like rail somebody who went industrialization first, and because all the techs are more expensive, it takes them longer to get to the units they need to defend themselves. So greedier tech pathings are a bit more risky than before. That's so the two main timings are gonna be right. Going ballistics prior to industrialization. That's the first time that you can punish somebody for greedy tech pathing. And the second one, which was big, was going combustion prior to chemistry. So you want chemistry for research labs, ideally, if you are completely at peace, if nobody's attacking you. But if you go for a typical tech pathing, like, you know, industrialization, chemistry, or whatever, you don't get any of these, like, important war techs. You don't have military academies. You don't have oil. Don't have steel walls. That's huge. Your cities are way weaker without these urban defenses. And you might think that AT crews can hold an army consisting of tanks and artillery, but they really can't. Not long term anyway. But people would still greed chemistry first. And that's a lot riskier now because the amount of time it will take to get back down from chemistry to combustion afterwards is going to be longer, just because techs are more expensive. Techs being more expensive makes these greedier tech pathings more risky, because if it takes like an extra 2 turns to go from chemistry to combustion compared to what it used to be, those extra 2 turns could get you killed. So I do think that in addition to some other changes we'll be discussing earlier, certain greedier tech pathings are probably a bit weaker than before. Right? There's going to be more room to punish people who click chemistry with a tank push than previously. So that is the first real big change. This will also slow down the game a lot. It might be really hard to break the science victory record in CPL. Like, it was already getting harder and harder with them, like, trying to slow down the game previously. Stuff like amenities giving less yields from previous batches. Things like that. And now, like, I struggle to see somebody getting a turn 95. Oh my god. Oh my... I just booted up this random game. This is the best tech tree ever. Holy shit. Maybe if you get a tech tree like this, you might get a turn 95 science victory. To be clear, getting to the future era of the tech tree is randomized. The fact that you can get all the way to this without picking up robotics, nuclear fission, and only requiring the one, if I filter production, I'm pretty sure this right here, one of these two is smart materials. They have to be, because if you filter for production, it'll reveal smart materials, which is required for science victory. Let me remove that filter. Yeah, but I digress. Science victory, fast science victory will be very difficult. Breaking the record will be very hard on the new patch. Oxford University moved to urbanization on the culture tree from scientific theory. So Oxford University, which used to be here, I'll show you where it is now. They moved it here. Very critical wonder. One of the best wonders in the game. So, the main reason is just the random 2 free technologies when completed. This was basically a snowball mechanic where, like, if you had the most techs completed before, you'd get the scientific theory first, you'd build Oxford University, and now you were previously, like, 3 techs ahead of everybody else in the lobby, and now you were 5 techs ahead, right? Because you get 2 free technologies. So this was like a win more snowball mechanic that made it so that, like, somebody with a slight lead would suddenly get a much larger lead. And by moving it from the science tree, from the tech tree, to the civics tree, it's less of a win more mechanic and now more of a catch-up mechanic, you see? Because it's not the person with the tech lead that's likely to get Oxford University, it's the person with the civics lead, right? So it could be that somebody was like 3 techs ahead of everybody else, running away with the game for a science victory, but then somebody else gets Oxford, and now the guy who was in the lead is only 1 tech out of everybody else, and the game is suddenly very competitive. So I think it's a great change to move Oxford University into the culture tree. So Jade was buffed. +1 production base. Not a really impactful change, IMO. Just a luxury resource that's a slightly better now. It was very bad before. I think it's just +1 culture before, so you'd have flat Jade. It's the same as Marble, really. I think. So that was really bad. Now it's decent. Steel Eurekas have 1 Renaissance Wall. They haven't updated all the in-game text. It doesn't show here. It still says the old Eureka. This is the old Eureka, right? Build an iron coal mine and an ironclad. The problem with this is that going up here for an ironclad is kind of a pain in the ass. You have to get an additional tech, which you probably couldn't boost as an inland civ, right? If you were just going full commercial hubs, no harbors, you wouldn't have any shipyards. So you'd Couldn't get the Eureka for this, but you would need to get this if you wanted the Eureka for steel, which was a pain in the ass. So by changing it to build a Renaissance wall, you can now get that Eureka much more easily. This is not something you'd normally do. People never built Renaissance walls before, but now you can go out of your way, build one Renaissance wall, it's steel Eureka, it's probably worth it. I think this is a good change to have a more attainable steel Eureka. Especially because previously, naval civs were kind of becoming very dominant in teamers specifically, and them having access to a Eureka that, another Eureka that inland civs didn't have was like a problem. They had this Eureka that inland civs couldn't get. They had this Eureka that inland civs couldn't get, build 2 harbors. Right? It was a shame. And now, steel Eureka is attainable for land civs. Cool. Okay, Bastion policy card. This is a nerf mainly designed for teamers. This policy card is somewhere over here, I think. I don't even know. Here it is. Okay. Yeah, they haven't updated the in-game text, but you don't get range strength on this anymore. Makes sense. It was too good for turtling. Early game wars kind of were hard. So, they removed it. Drums of War. Normal age, doesn't matter. Golden Age. It's a bit... I would say this is weaker early on, but it's better in the Renaissance era. And as you'll see, they buffed it even more in a later B patch. Let me go down a bit. Fast forward a bit to when they buffed it again. Okay, increased to 50% Coltron kill. Right? That's in the C patch. So if we go back up, we'll see Drums of War. Grant 25% of the combat strength in a unit in Coltron killing it. Now it's 50%, right? This is a very, very good Golden Age dedication for the Renaissance era now. So, like, what you'll do is you'll go Pen, Brush, and Voice first, Free Inquiry second, and then you can consider going Drums of War as your Renaissance era dedication. And if you go for, like, Combustion Push during the Renaissance era, you go with tanks, and you're killing other tanks. If you're getting 50% of the combat strength of tanks in Culture every time you kill them, that's like a lot, right? You could be getting like 80, 90 culture per turn, maybe even over 100 culture per turn average in a modern era war from Drums of War's Golden Age dedication, once you account for the fact that it's buffed to 50% of the combat strength in the C patch. Yeah, pretty decent change. Might be very pickable in the Renaissance era, especially if your culture sucks. If you're struggling with culture, but you have really good science and you want to go for like a tank push, Drums of War will get you back on track in the culture tree. Like, you can just take Drums of War, kill a bunch of tanks, pillage some theater squares, and boom, you're on fascism, even though your culture kind of sucked in the mid-game. Okay. So, recon units. Oh, another change. I forgot to mention this earlier with the text costing more. This era gate increase only applies on techs. Some civs have unique units in the civics tree. That's why I picked Poland for this demonstration. You get the Winged Hussar at the same time as before. This is like a really early unit already. This was super strong how early you got it. Now all of the units that you need to defend from it, right? You basically need... You can slow it down. You can slow down Winged Hussars a bit with pikemen and knights, but you're never stopping them. You need to get to, like, pike and shot to stop Winged Hussars, to, like, actually prevent the push from going through. Like, pike and shot and field cannons. And with all the techs being more expensive, but the civics being the same cost, Winged Hussars still come at the same turn as before, but you're getting to pike and shot like 2, maybe even 3 turns slower than before. And yeah, that's a buff to all the culture tree, like civics unique units. Not just Winged Hussars. Canada has Mounties at conservation. Those have a larger timing window than before. They're like crazy strong. I struggle to imagine how you'll hold a Mountie push with all of the techs being more expensive when Mounties come at the same turn as before, because none of the civics cost more. But yeah. Okay. Recon units get +1 sight, aside from scouts and the unique scout replacement of the Kree. That's what Oki means. So that means that, like, if you go down here, skirmishers get +1 sight, rangers get +1 sight. This is a nothing burger change. I still think these are barely ever going to be used. I mean, I guess it matters if you're playing Scotland, who is a unique ranger that's actually good. BBG buffs the Highlander quite a bit. It's a very good unit in this mod. Aircraft carrier melee strength buff to 80. Aircraft carriers barely ever see play in free-for-all. I guess this is a neat change, but it's not going to, like, shake up the meta much. This one will. Mainly for teamers, because Naval War is way more common there than in FFA, because generally, Naval War is less about, like, snowballing your own game. It's not, like, a very selfish move. It's just about screwing over the other guy, right? It's hard to hold cities to loyalty if you're conquering them navally. It's hard to get a lot of good pillages, but you can raise cities. So they're very common in teamers just to kill an enemy team member. So this is huge, mainly because what people would do before, because the first naval combat promotions were so strong, is Terracotta Army was insane. Where is it? All current units gain a promotion level. You'd make a ton of galleys, right? Just a massive amount. Build Terracotta Army to give them all one free promotion, then upgrade them to caravels and push. And with that free promotion, they just rolled over unpromoted caravels. Now that's not as much the case anymore, right? Because it's only +5 combat strength instead of +7. The other thing you could do, say you can't get Terracotta Army, what people would do is they would go Victor, grab a promotion for free military, or grab a promotion so that military units get a free promotion when trained in a city. Make all your galleys from there, and then upgrade them to caravels. That also gets them all free promotion. Less mandatory than it used to be. So that's nice. It's not as overwhelming. Religion changes. I don't think these will make a big difference. These beliefs were barely ever used. Now they might be used somewhat. They're actually a lot better now. Basically, these beliefs are if you convert foreign citizens in other cities than your own, right? These only apply in foreign cities in BBG. For every 3 converted citizens, you'll get 1 point of culture or science per turn. So if you convert somebody else, you can get some extra stats. It's better than before, because you only need to convert 3 citizens instead of 4 for these beliefs now. Passive religious spread reduced to 10 tiles from 12. I don't think this is that big of a change most of the time, because religious spread was never, like, a huge deal. Pilgrimage buffed. This is plus what it was before, to be clear, is +2 faith in every city following your religion. For every city following your religion, rather. So even if a foreign city was following your religion, you'd get +2 faith from that. Now it's +2 faith, just like before, but once you reach the theology civic down here, it's +3 faith instead for each city. So that's good. Tithe is +2. It was +3 gold previously for every city following your religion. Now it's +2 gold and +1 at theology, so it's less strong early. Yeah, it was very popular belief. I see why it was nerfed. Bummer for the civs that have really bad gold gen and were relying on Tithe. Arabia is a good example of this. Arabia has bonuses towards campuses and holy sites, and they gain adjacencies from each other. So Arabia would do nothing but spam their campuses and holy sites everywhere, have no gold whatsoever, and they relied on Tithe. So this nerf's gonna hit them, since now they're just gonna struggle to stay a positive gold per turn with a full campus holy site opener. Okay, civilization changes. Australia, pastures no longer give bonus production. It might be easier if I exit to the main menu so I can show you what the civs were like before. These changes have not been reflected in the in-game text. So, in English, rather. If you're playing in French, they have. The BBG team just hasn't updated the English text. So, it still has the old bonuses here. So, we'll use these for comparison. Even though I have the beta mod installed, it shows the old bonuses. Right? Australia, pastures no longer give bonus production. This is gonna be gone. Um, it kind of makes sense because Australia was wildly overperforming after they added BBM. So basically, we used to play with better balanced starts. Better balanced starts was basically abandoned by the mod author. They were not making the changes that the BBG team wanted of them. So they made a fork of the mod, right? They took a version of BB, Better Balanced Starts, made a new mod based off of that called Better Balanced Maps, and everybody pivoted over. And Better Balanced Maps made Australia way too good. It basically fixed all the problems Australia had with their spawn biases on BBS. What had happened was Australia was sleeper OP for like probably years, but because Better Balanced Starts was so cruel to Australia for no reason, they had like such bad spawns on average. They didn't get as many pastures as they should have. They didn't get fresh water as much as they should have. It kind of sucked. And when BBM came along and fixed Australia's spawn bias, it was revealed to kind of be overpowered. It suddenly was doing like insanely well. So this is a response to the pivot to BBM. Pastures no longer give bonus production. Maybe Australia will be less overbearing now. Byzantium, Dromans get +5 combat strength against naval units. So to be clear, Dromans are nerfed compared to the base game, and this is like only a partial revert of that nerf. Where is Basil 2? There we go. So Dromans, it doesn't say here, but in the base game they get +10 against all units. BBG removed that so they get +0 against any units. Now their only bonus was extra range compared to the Quadream. And BBG was like, you know what? We'll throw them a bone. We'll give them half of the combat strength. They don't get the +10 like they have in the base game, but they get +5 against naval units. Now Dromans might actually be an intimidating unit. Interesting change. Won't have any impact on FFA because if you're Droman rushing somebody in a free-for-all game, you're probably trolling. They're not going to have any tile improvements. You're not going to snowball your own game off of it. Dromans are designed to kill somebody else and sabotage their game, not to, like, accelerate your own game by conquering a prosperous civilization. It's too early in the game. But yeah, in Teamers, this is relevant. Byzantium, Theodora got nerfed. So what they're doing is they're taking away the Hippodrome culture adjacencies. So they no longer get +1 culture for each adjacent district. To be clear, Hippodromes are their unique entertainment complex. Small nerf. Won't have that big of an impact on FFA, to be honest. Probably a bigger impact in Teamers, where you're spamming Hippodromes to attack people with knights. In free-for-all, you generally don't make that many Hippodromes until later. What you would do is you would wait until you get to like either ballistics where you have cuirassiers or combustion where you have tanks, and then you'd build your hippodromes where it would grant you free tanks or cuirassiers, and then you build all the buildings because that also gives you free units. So not a big impact in FFA because you weren't building these early anyway. But a bigger impact in Teamers, where you were using these for night timings. Egypt, Ptolemaic, or whatever. This was so over-nerfed. They, like, killed this. So, like, if you look at how bad this is compared to base game, Ptolemaic, they took away the culture on improved resources on floodplains. They took it away. It didn't have it in BBG for a while. Everybody hated that change because it made Egypt feel like ass, and they gave it back. Improved resources on floodplains get +1 culture. This is partially a reaction to nerfing like Etemonanki, which Egypt loved. So now they can give back. Like they did a double whammy of nerfing Egypt and its best wonder, right? And now they're saying, oh, we didn't need to do both of those. We can give back the +1 culture on Ptolemaic now that Etemonanki's nerfed. So, cool. Pericles gets +5% tourism per city-state suzerain. I think Pericles, this is going to be a hot take. It might actually be one of the best free-for-all civs with this change. It partially has to do with the earlier changes to the hex being more expensive. Tech's being more expensive, but Civic's not, benefits these really culture heavy civs, right? So for one, Culture Victory now has a much better fighting chance against Science Victory because Science Victory is just going to be slower with this. So that helped Pericles. Fascism, which is in the civics tree, huge war timing, still comes at the same time as before, but all the techs come later. Yeah, this, culture culture civs were already eating pretty just because of all of the science nerfs, and Heracles is likely to get Oxford University. I mean, come on. He's getting to urbanization before anybody else. This civ has the most culture of any civ in the entire game, usually, because of the Acropolis, plus the extra culture per city-state suzerains. And now you're telling me that he gets win-con bonuses? Where is that? Here, like plus 5% tourism per city-state suz, especially in FFA where people are less likely to contest your city-states than in Teamers. I think Pericles is going to be like a top tier civ with this change. He can actually go for win conditions pretty easily with this. I already like the civ. I already thought it was underrated. When I saw that it was rated below average on the poll, where every with a ton of multiplayer players, over 100 respondents were asked to rate every single civ from 1 to 5, and Pericles rated fairly low. I thought that was insane. I thought Pericles was already underrated. Now it's getting a direct buff and an indirect buff up here. All of this is an indirect buff to Pericles. And then on top of it, it gets this direct buff. I think it's going to be a very, very strong FFA civ. Okay, so Gandhi, settlers and builders produced in a city with a holy site get +1 movement. Previously, there was no requirement. Previously, you didn't need a holy site. Right from the beginning of the game, you would get +1 movement on builders and settlers. Right here. This nerf makes sense when you consider how dominant Gandhi has been recently. He was a decent above average civ in FFA, nothing to write home about. And Teamers, very, very good. Varus are insanely strong unique unit. For relling people. Like, they're crazy good. And he doubles war wariness. Oh, it's plus 50%. Did they nerf this already at some point? I guess they nerfed it in a previous patch. Plus 50% war wariness for fighting against Gandhi. He was very good in 1v1 duels and in teamers. He's a crazy good duel civ just because of this war wariness plus the Varus. And in teamers, people will spread religions to you on purpose, like your teammates will. So receive follower beliefs in cities from each religion that has at least one follower, and cities gain an amenity for every religion with at least one follower. In a teamers game, your teammates would send you missionaries to give you these bonuses. So this civ was like extremely good in that game mode, between that and the war wariness. So I see why they nerfed it, probably because of that. It's not a big nerf, honestly. Once you get holy sites, settlers and builders will receive the movement just like they do now. Just they won't have them from the start of the game. To be clear, you wouldn't build a holy site in every city before. So you would go like 3 holy sites into commercial hubs everywhere in Gandhi. It's how people usually play the civ. So you will have builders that would previously get +1 movement that will now never get +1 movement because they're going to be built in cities without holy sites. Okay, Japan Hojo, combat bonus nerfed to +3. If I go to Hojo, they're referring to this. Land units receive +5 combat strength in land tiles adjacent to coast, and naval units receive +5 combat strength in shallow water tiles. Mainly the naval units receiving combat strength in shallow water tiles was insane. Yeah, I mean, fair. Like, he literally just had +5 in all naval combat, essentially. I see why they nerfed it to +3. Maya, weird way to buff Maya. +3 combat strength, 6 tiles from capital. This is a revert of a previous nerf. They have this in the base game. They took it away, and then they gave it back. Yeah, I don't know. Probably not going to change much in FFA. Maybe this will make it a little bit better in Teamers. Where it's very stable now with a +3 combat strength and 6 tiles of capital. It's harder to kill. But in FFA, this was not the problem with the Civ. I would say it's still going to be a below average free-for-all Civ, even with combat strength near its capital. Scythia, Kurgan base faith reduced to 1. So Scythia here was a decent civ in teamers for Ra warring people. This combat bonus is insane, by the way. +5 combat strength when attacking wounded units and heal 30 HP every time any unit illuminates any other unit. This is one of the best combat bonuses in the entire game, right? So this has always been a decent civ for both teamers for war and in very, very good in duels. 1v1s in duel formats, which are not that popular. Scythia is like easily one of the best civs. And basically it had an okay simming bonus. It wasn't super good in FFA because it was hard to keep up because we basically have no simming bonuses whatsoever, and early game wars aren't great in free-for-all. But nerfing this from +2 faith to +1, this is like the only simming bonus the Civ had, and it wasn't that great. So yeah, this nerf, Scythia is probably not going to be a super great Civ in free-for-all after this. I wouldn't pick it at least. Still probably going to be very good in duels and decent in teamers. Sweden. After feudalism, cities on desert, tundra, or snow tiles get +1 food and +1 production base. So if I go here, I have to remember what the Swedish leader is named. Christina, there she is. Okay, she already has like the longest text in the game almost. So much text, so many random bonuses. It's just a bunch of small bonuses. This is like a million tiny bonuses that add together into like an okay civ. And here they added another tiny bonus. Like, after feudalism, cities settled on desert, tundra, or snow tiles get +1 food and +1 reduction. To be clear, this is only on the city center tile. They're not giving this on every desert, snow, or tundra tile, just on the city center. It's not that much. In case you're wondering, you do want to settle cities on these, at least one, because the, what is it, Open Air Museum, Sweden, gives +2 culture and +2 tourism for each type of terrain in which at least one Swedish city is settled. So this makes these token snow, tundra, and desert cities, where you would only settle one of each just to get this buff on all of your open air museums, a little better. I don't think it's like a huge deal. Because it kicks in kind of late, and it's not that much for how late it kicks in. +1 food and +1 production on one tile. Okay, Vietnam no longer gets +1 extra movement point on neutral or enemy territory. To be clear, it was only getting this when beginning their turn on rainforest, marsh, or wood styles. No longer gets this in neutral or enemy territory. Only in your own territory. Okay. Fair. I mean, it was overbearing on particularly siege units and ranged units. Siege units and range units getting that +1 movement made them like really good. And now they don't cap it in neutral or enemy territory. So, you know, fair nerf. Probably won't have a big impact on the Civ and FFA. I have played Vietnam was the first Civ I played on this patch. So I have played 3 games on this patch 5.9, full disclosure. Vietnam was the first one I played, and it was my first time ever playing Vietnam, and I will be posting that footage shortly. So you can see the very first game I played on this patch, and you'll get to see some Vietnam action. Okay, going down. Civilization reworks. These are just small changes. Now we're getting into big ones. Like I said, biggest update they've ever done. Let me make sure that this is still recording. Okay. I was just hovering Streamlabs. By the way, you can see my wallpaper when I do this. This is just ping pong the animation. Good anime. So Catherine Magnificent, they completely rework this. No longer does their unique court festival project just grant instant tourism. So basically you could cheese with their tourism. Let me explain the context of why they had to rework this. Let me give the change first. What it does now, Court Festival no longer gives flat tourism based on the excess luxuries that you have. It now gives plus 3% global tourism in your entire empire for the rest of the game each time it's finished. To be clear, this project is more expensive than other city projects. If it wasn't, this would be broken, right? So you could run a project in your city to get bonus tourism empire-wide for the rest of the game. Very, very good for late game closing out culture victories now. You're just going to be spamming this. Let me explain why it had to be changed. You could cheese the earliest culture victories ever. Somebody won like a turn 50 culture victory, in a 4v4 competitive tournament game. A tournament game, like money on the line, was one where a team cheesed a culture victory on turn 50 by spamming Catherine Magnificent court festivals. The way they accomplished this is they went for a religion with reliquaries, which is the belief that triples the yield, the tourism yield from relics. It triples the tourism and faith yield. They had Poland on their team. Poland normally wants that because they get a free relic. Let me show you. We're just detailing what happened in that game. Okay, I need to remember what the Polish leader's name is called, but essentially, Jadwiga, yeah, there it is. Poland gets free relics when founding a religion and when completing a religion. So normally Poland takes reliquaries, but instead in this game their teammate Catherine Magnificence took it, and Poland took the free relics they got and traded them to Catherine Magnificence for extra tourism. So first off, they get a ton of tourism from that. They spam some wonders, right? Particularly Apadana for more relic slots. Their teammates traded them all of the relics they could, right? So they get up to like a decent, by turn 50, they're at a very high, like 60, 70 tourism per turn. High for that turn, right? And then their teammates traded them all of their luxury resources, which Port Festival projects granted tourism every time you complete them, based on the number of luxury resources that Catherine had. So their teammates torpedoed their own game. You had 3 Arel players by turn 50 on this 4-player team, because every Lux, not just the first copy of each one, but each copy. So all of their team were negative amenities. All of the Luxes were traded to Catherine Magnificence, who then ran the projects. And somehow this dumb strategy won by turn 50. With like 3 of the 4 teammates were irrelevant, basically. So yeah, they had to rework it. It was too good. Funny little story. Okay, I have like a sneeze coming on, but it's not coming. Okay, whatever. So here we go. Now we get to some interesting stuff. They had to differentiate some civs where all the leaders were too similar to each other. China's the first one up for grabs, then England, then Korea, then Mali. These are the 4 civs, all right? They said that China, England, Korea, and Mali, their leaders all play too similarly to each other. So what they did, they nerfed the Civ bonuses. This is a nerf, net nerf. Even though the Great Wall is getting buffed, Crouching Tigers are cheaper. This nerf is very meaningful. China, Eureka/Inspiration boost reduced to 5% from 10%. So they haven't updated the in-game text, so I can show you what it used to be, right? You get 50% of civics and technologies instead of 40%. That's what it used to be. That's really good. That's like an invisible 16% extra modifier on all science and culture you generate. Like you go through the, because you're paying only 50% of the cost in techs and civics you boost, whereas every other civ is paying 60%. So this was crazy good. Too good, in fact, so they nerfed it. Because if they didn't nerf this, they couldn't buff the leaders enough to differentiate them from each other. So they take power out of the civ and they give it to the leaders. Let's see what they did. Kublai, okay? Let me show you what Kublai is. Kublai is very generic. +1 science and culture per international trade route, extra economic policy card slot, and free Eurekas and inspirations when establishing trading posts. Now, you get an additional +1 culture and science for every 6 tiles trade routes travel, right? You still get the base. Minimum, you get +1 science, +1 culture. And then for every 16 tiles you get an additional +1 science and culture. So, for Kublai China, between this nerf and this buff, I think Kublai China is in basically the same place as before, right? But Kublai Mongolia didn't get nerfed, you see. They didn't nerf Mongolia, they nerfed China. But they buffed Kublai, and Kublai Khan Mongolia gets to reap the benefits of the Kublai buff without suffering the penalties from the China nerf. And this bonus that they give, trade routes receive +1 culture and science for every 16 tiles they travel, is better on Kublai, China, it's better on Mongolia than China. Let me explain why. Basically, on Mongolia, you instantly create a trading post in the destination city whenever you send a trade route. Trade routes have a minimum or a maximum distance they can travel of 15 tiles base. But if they pass through a trading post, they can travel an additional 15 tiles. So the way you get trade routes longer than 15 tiles to get this bonus is by running your trade routes through trading posts. What this means, on Mongolia specifically, since they instantly create a trading post in the destination city instead of completing it when the trade route completes, is that, say you're in a free-for-all game, you spawn on the absolute left side of the map, the furthest you can be to the west, right? You can send a trade route to the person to your east, establish a trading post. That gives you 15 extra range. Then you send another trade route east with that extra range to another city. Create another trading post. Now you have 30 extra range to the east. You do this again, now you have like 45 extra range, right? You just keep sending it east as far as you can to keep establishing more trading posts instantly with the Mongolian bonus. So, in a free-for-all game, by the time you get your 4th trade route capacity, if you have scouted properly, if you have made sure to send your scouts to reveal cities along the way, you can be sending your 4th trade route across the world. You would never do this before. Why would you want to send a trade route to a foreign civ on the other side of the continent? You get like no bonuses for doing this, and you'd rather send them internally. But now, +1 culture and science for every 16 tiles they travel, maybe you do want to do this on Mongolia specifically, because you get the trading posts instantly. Right? So you could be sitting there, turn like 36, sending your 4th trade route east, like across the map, and it's already giving you like +5 science and culture per turn on that one trade route. And then eventually you send all your trade routes that far. So on Mongolia specifically, yes, Kublai Khan, much bigger buff for Mongolia than China. I kind of want to try this. I want to see that strategy in action. So yeah, is it too good? I don't know. Kublai Mongolia wasn't particularly great before. So, but this might push it to being very good. It still gets plenty of the good Mongolian combat bonuses for later, and now, unlike Genghis Khan, it actually has really good simming bonuses. So yeah, this would be interesting to try. I will be playing Kublai Mongolia at my next opportunity. Okay, Kinshi Mandate. Builder charges to complete wonders to +20% from 15%, and get a Eureka/Inspiration when he finishes a wonder, right? Because they removed that from China, right? So, but Kinshi Mandate now gets it. So, is this Civ? So, let me see. Mandate is the one that lets you spend builder charges to complete wonders. It's going to be 20% instead of 15%. That's actually pretty huge. Like, that's actually gigantic. So, this would be a net neutral change, I'd say, if you consider this nerf here, right? Losing the Eureka and Inspiration progress from China, and getting this. That would be like a net neutral change. But because Kinshi Mandate is a very fast, greedy culture victory civ, fast culture victory, high culture, these changes up here favor it. This is a better meta for it. All 3 of these changes that I mentioned earlier make culture victory civs better, I think, and high culture in general more profitable, because you're getting Oxford University before anybody else. So Kinshi Mandate is definitely feeling good on the new patch, I think. Um, I would say it's probably a very, very good civ to be playing with this update. Okay, Kinshi Unifier. This one kind of sucked. Is what is it? Extra. I like what they tried to do with the civ. You get extra production towards encampment buildings, +1 great writer points from encampment districts, and Brax have 2 great work of writing slots. Right? Interesting direction to take it. Now, books give +1 food, and because they removed these things, right? You don't get Eureka and Inspiration when finishing wonders, and they nerf this. They furthermore, what is it? You get a Eureka / Inspiration when recruiting a general or writer. Net. This is still probably weaker, even weaker than it was before because you lost this. I don't think these changes make up for losing the Eureka and Inspiration boost. +1 food on books is not enough to compensate for this. So I expect this to still be a very weak FFA civ. Why? If you're gonna pick China, you're not gonna pick this one in free for all. Might be good in teamers because generating books for Arel warring people and spamming encampments is kind of good in teamers. You can trade the books to like a civ that gets extra yields on books. So for instance, what is it? Eleanor in BBG. Oh, the text is bugged again. Why do they keep bugging the text? The Eleanor changes are missing. But yeah, if you have a civ on your team like Eleanor, who in BBG does gain extra yields on books, you could pick Kin Unifier on that team and then just give the free books you get to Eleanor. That is how generally it was played in teamers. Yep. Not good in FFA still. Okay, Wu Zeshin. These are the most interesting changes to any China, right? Because this is a new identity for this civ. This is the civ where you get extra spy upon discovering defensive tactics. Spies are more powerful, and whenever they're successful at a mission, you get faith, culture, and science equal to the amount that city generated that turn. Right? It was considered pretty underwhelming. So now traders and spies get +2 sight, and recon units get +1 sight when machinery is unlocked. This second one's funny because if you'll remember earlier, what is it? Recon units already get +1 sight if they're more advanced than a scout. So now Wu Zeshin is going to have skirmishers that give +4 sight. Maybe you'll actually build skirmishers. Unironically, you probably will, especially when you look at this. Units 3 tiles from a recon unit get +2 combat strength, right? So you reveal way more range with your spies, with your recon units, and you get extra combat strength from your recon units. Now, why am I ignoring the combat strength from spies? Let's scroll down, because there's been 2 more patches, right? 2 small patches. And in the C patch, we're going to flash forward here, they remove the combat strength from spies, but buff this combat strength from recon units to +3. Right? So just bear that in mind. It's +3 combat strength from recon units on the current version of the beta. Probably a pretty good civ. It's the war China now. This is the China you pick to do war. Not only do you get that +3 from the recon units, bear in mind, you get a free spy earlier than anybody else at defensive tactics. You put this in somebody's city, right? Defensive tactics is very early in the civics tree. It's along the way to feudalism. You put this in somebody's city, you run the listening post operation to get +1 level of Diploviz. You get +3 combat strength for every level of Diploviz you have against a civ. That's just true of all civs, right? Diploviz gives combat strength, in case you didn't know that. So, with that spy, and with a recon unit giving +3 combat strength, you're getting +6 with like a night timing. That's a lot. That is a lot. Wu Zeshin is actually a pretty decent war civ now, I think. Very interesting. Probably the best of all the China changes. I like Kublai because it gives him a new identity. I like Wu Zeshin because it reinforces her identity and gives her like a new one of being the war China. These are a little more. This guy already had a unique identity, so I'm fine. This is a boring not enough change. And Yongle is in the category of boring changes. Yongle is the tall China. It gets extra yields in highly populous cities. A very, very good leader. The science victory record in CPL was set on this version, the one with the stats right here. This change, he gets a unique project that gives food and faith equal to the production of the city that does them. Equal to 60% previously, now 70%. Not a big deal, this change, I think. You didn't run these projects very often. You ran them a little bit. Free Eureka when cities reach 10 population, and free Inspiration when cities reach 15 population. Bear in mind, they nerfed China. You don't get free Eurekas and Inspirations when finishing wonders anymore, and Inspirations and Eurekas are only 5% extra instead of 10% extra. This is probably a net nerf to Yongle. Like, these buffs are less impactful than these nerfs. So I would say Yongle's a little weaker than before, but that's fine because he was really good before. He's still probably good, right? He could take a little nerf and still be a strong leader. Okay, England. Again, taking power out of the Civ so they can buff the leaders and differentiate them. Sea Dog's combat strength. I'll show you. They have a unique unit. It replaces the Privateer. I think it comes earlier in the Privateer. And has a chance to capture defeat enemy ships. Gets nerfed combat strength from 55 to 53. These barely come up in FFA, so I don't know. I assume this change is obviously targeted at teamers, where England was a top tier pick. People would constantly pick England on the water because Sea Dogs are very strong, half-cost harbors are very strong, and their bonuses were very generically good. Right, and then bonus production towards industrial zone buildings removed. You get 20% bonus production towards industrial zone buildings right here on all England leaders. They don't get that anymore, except for Age of Steam. Okay, so Elizabeth. Naval Raider units can promote and move in the same turn. Again, this would seem like it doesn't matter, right? Because Naval Raider units generally suck, but again, it's England. They have a unique Naval Raider unit. This is the only good Naval Raider unit. It's their Sea Dog. Right? So, bearing this in mind, this is actually pretty impactful. This is a pretty big buff. But then they nerfed the Sea Dogs from 55 to 53, so I don't know. None of this matters for FFA. Let's move on. Victoria Age of Steam, or Age of Empire. Okay, what is it? They're removing this. Every time you found your first city on a continent other than your home continent, receive a trade route capacity. That part's getting nerfed. Or getting removed. That's a pretty big nerf in FFA. You could high roll like crazy if you spawned on like a 3-way continent split and just get 2 trade route capacity for free early. If this happened, it was one of the best civs in the game. If you got like this 2 free trade route capacity in like the ancient era, oh my god, what an insane civ. So I see why they removed it. It's less, like, random now. But then, cities settle 10 plus tiles from the capital, get a free melee unit. You're barely settling cities 10 plus tiles from the capital. This is, like, not a meaningful change. Civilian units escorted by naval melee units gain their movement. I mean, this combos with the previous one, right? You can now escort them and settle further away, but maybe on 7 Seas this matters. This probably matters a lot on the 7 Seas map, which is commonly played sometimes. But on, like, Pangea, I don't think this matters at all. On Highlands, this doesn't matter. On Lakes, this doesn't matter. It depends on the map you're playing on, basically. Probably a net nerf overall. I mean, you're getting some slight nerf here. You're getting a big nerf here, depending on your spawn, and these don't help you much at all in free-for-all. So, Okay, Victoria Age of Steam is my favorite of the England changes, though. So, what they're doing is, first off, they're removing the +1 production to improve strategic tiles. Okay, fair enough. What they're doing is, they're giving them the +20% production towards industrial zone buildings, right? So, this right here, which is on England, it just goes up. It's down the leader bonus, right? It's unchanged for her. It just shows up in the leader bonus instead of the Empire bonus. Okay. Cities with the lighthouse get +1 great engineer point. That's neat, right? I don't know how impactful that'll be. It'll let you get to great engineers earlier than other civs, because you obviously get lighthouses online before industrial zones generally get built by anybody. Only Gaul is getting industrial zones before you have lighthouses. No other civ could ever get them up that quickly, because Gaul is a unique industrial zone that's unlocked earlier. So yeah, that's neat. But this is the fun part. Industrial zones get a major adjacency from Royal Navy Dockyard. I really like this change. I really like any change that like changes how city planning works. I'd like BBG to like consider making more changes like this, because they've done this on other civs and it's been very successful and fun, because it like changes the entire way you plan your empire. Let me give some examples of other civs that are changed like this by BBG. So like one example is Norway. On Norway in BBG, um coast and lake tiles provide a standard adjacency bonus to holy site districts, and harbors receive a major adjacency bonus from holy sites. This change complete is not in the base game. One of these, I don't remember which, but basically this harbor holy site synergy is not present without BBG. And with BBG, this means that you plan your district setups completely differently. You're now like placing all your holy sites and harbors next to each other. You're putting you're trying to get intercity setups where like you have harbors that have two holy sites adjacent to them, or holy sites that have two harbors adjacent to them. It's very interesting, right? Um, and it makes the civ play uniquely, and I like a change like that. Another one was Mbande, right? This is completely reworked from the base game. The base game is just extra yields in cities on the same continent. It's boring. It's honestly also too strong. So what they did is they reworked it, right? The Mbanza, the unique district, now gives extra gold and culture in the city if it has one. And this is the interesting part. Mbanzas provide +2 adjacency to commercial hubs and theater squares. This is another one where it's like, it changes how you plan your empire, right? Now you have this whole mini game of trying to get your Mbanzas next to as many commercial hubs and theater squares as possible. And that's fun. You plan your empire differently on Mbande. And what they're doing with Victoria Age of Steam with these changes is they're giving them something like that. Industrial zones get major adjacency from Royal Navy dockyards. Now you're placing your Royal Navy dockyards differently to try to get more industrial zones adjacent to them. And you're like, yeah, your whole planning is different. And I think that's neat. Okay? uh, so Korea, again, they're trying to differentiate the two Korean leaders. They're too similar. So the Siawan, that's the unique campus. Right? It's now, what is it? +1 base adjacency from +2. So you get less adjacency on the district as a baseline on their unique campus. Badge. Specialists now get +3 science and +1 food from +3 science. This is a typo. Specialist gives +2 science until you have research labs, I'm pretty sure. I asked for clarification, and they told me, regardless of what it used to be, specialists now give +3 science and +1 food, right? That's what it is now. Used to be +2 science, now it's +3 science and +1 food. And once you get research labs, it's +4 science and +1 food, because research labs power up specialists. To be clear, specialists are citizens that you assign to work on a district tile itself. Do I think this means that they'll actually use specialist slots early? Probably not. Probably not super early, but maybe in the mid game. Having stronger specialist slots is interesting. Negative adjacency removed. Basically, Tiawans had reduced adjacency from all districts aside from theater squares. Right? That's been removed. They no longer lose adjacency from being next to other districts. That's nice. And theater square C1 adjacency removed. Okay, whatever. We'll move on to the leaders, because Sejong, okay? Get culture based on science when reaching a new era, right? This. Whenever you complete your first tech for a new era, receive science per turn as culture. Very strong bonus. Lets you greed heavily into science and still make decent progress in the civics tree. right? CO1 get negative adjacency from other district apart from theater, okay? So he gets to keep the negative adjacency on his CO1s. He can't put other districts next to them, except for theater squares, which he can. Okay? Bear in mind, this isn't up to date. This is the old changes. These are the new ones, okay? Let me breathe. CO1s get +1 adjacencies from theaters. Neat. You can now get big theaters. Theaters get +2 adjacency from CO1s. You can now put your theaters in between your CO1s. You can open with like multiple campuses into multiple theater squares, get huge stats. You'll probably have really bad food and production this way, so I doubt you're going to open straight campus into straight theater. Like, I think if you go like 5 campuses into 3 theaters as your first districts, you're going to be trolling. Like, you're going to have terrible growth. You need food and production, so you're probably still going to be putting down commercial hubs early. It'll probably be CO1s into discount commercial hubs into some discount theater squares afterwards. Once feudalism unlocked, gain 15% production towards builders for cities without a governor. That's a weird change. He's slightly stronger than before. Sejong's probably going to be a pretty good leader. I like, again, this is similar to Victoria Age of Steam, more planning. Now that theaters get extra adjacency from CO1s, there's more incentive to put them next to them. Cool. Okay, Seondeok, this was a miss. They even admitted this was a miss. They messed this up. So in addition to CO1s are weaker, right? Their unique district is a bit weaker here. They removed Seondeok here for +3 culture and science for each promotion governors have. They removed this. +1 amenity per city with governor. That's decent. It's an okay bonus. Plus 20% yield to CO1 building for each governor promotion in the city. That's nothing. It sounds like more than it is. If you have a library, right, in a city, and you have no blue city states, that's 2 science per turn. Say you have 1 blue city state, that's 3 science per turn, right? So if you have, say that you have 5 governor titles spent. We'll say you have 8, right? 8 governor titles is normal to have on turn 60. So if you have 8 governor titles spent and all you've built is libraries, at that point, and each library is giving +3 science, then 20% yield to CO1 buildings for each governor promotion in the city, you are getting basically from 8 governor titles, you can multiply 20% by 8. That gives you 160% of 3 if all you have is libraries, and they all give 3 science each because we're assuming you have 1 blue city state. So you are getting like 6 science from this on turn 60. This is nothing, right? You'll get more as you get universities up, but this is very little. And then they hit them with this malice. When you unlock feudalism, cities without a governor get -10% all yields. Wildly underpowered. They undershot. They admitted they admitted it, right? And they buffed it. We're gonna scroll down and look at the C patch. First off, B patch. They bug fixed it. CO1s weren't even gaining adjacency from other districts. Which this is listed under a bug fix, but it's actually a change, right? They say they removed the negative adjacency here, but they never had positive adjacency either, right? They don't get the +0.5 adjacency for districts on this patch, right? So they removed the negative adjacency, and on the B patch, now they get +0.5 adjacency from other districts, right? On their CO1s. And in the C patch, here we go. Seondeok now gets a governor title at feudalism, right? They get an extra governor title. The percent yields on CO1 buildings is now 40% from 20%, right? So for every governor title you have spent in a city, you'll get 40% extra yields on every building that you have in a campus. And the malice is now -10% on cities founded by Seondeok without governor after feudalism. This is the same as before, except previously... No, it's just the same as before, actually. So... is it good after this buff? They doubled the science. They get an extra governor title. I still think it's not very good. I still think it's probably weaker than it was before patch 5.9. This malice is disgustingly high. Especially with how few governor titles you get. Maybe it can come online later once you probably go for Casa de Contra what is it, Casa de Contratacion or whatever, that wonder that gives 3 governor titles. That's unlocked at cartography. You'll build that every game, obviously, on the Civ. Because you need more governors. I think it's probably still going to be a bit weak. A bit on the weaker side, even with these buffs. 40% extra yields per governor title on all campus buildings in the city with the governor. Yeah. I mean, they're trying to make a tall civ. They're trying to make a civ that can go 6 cities, right? That literally only like 6, maybe 7 cities, right? In defiance of the meta, goes super tall and still succeeds. We'll see if they can get away with that. I'm skeptical that this premise can work without production bonuses as well. Just science bonuses probably isn't enough, because if you're stuck on 7 cities, you're gonna have bad production. Okay, whatever. We'll move on to Mali. So Mali was the worst civ in the game last patch. By far. It sucked. Both Mali leaders sucked. And it was because it was over-nerfed. It used to be really good in BBG, and then they were like, okay, it's too good. They nerfed it, and they killed it. They way over-nerfed it. They overshot. And this is them trying to make it good again. So they went from a 20% production malice to 15%. I'm sorry, what did they... They already updated the in-game text here on some of this. That's weird. They haven't updated the in-game text on most things, right? Like Kublai's not updated, Christina's not updated, John Curtin's not updated, but for some reason Mansa Musa, it was 20% last patch, minus 20% production towards all production. Now it's 15%, right? Holy sites, and here you can see they're trying to differentiate the leaders. So holy site adjacency from desert, purchase discount on desert tiles, plus food on desert tiles, all that's removed. Right? And now mines get plus 4 gold and minus 1 production. This is a revert. These are mostly reverts to vanilla. This is a revert to vanilla behavior. It used to be plus 2 gold and plus 2 more at banking, and it still had the minus 1 production, so it was like really ass. Like your early mines would do nothing but plus 2 gold. Now that it's plus 4, it's like finally they're worth building again. Plus 1 food per desert tile adjacent to your city center. That's another return to vanilla. City center receive plus 2 faith if it owns at least 2 desert tiles. Okay. Sugaba faith and gold purchase in city at 10% discount. That's the Sugaba's their unique commercial hub building, or their unique commercial hub district. It costs 50% as much as a regular commercial hub, which is really good, by the way. Having what's already one of the best districts in the game, the commercial hub, cost half as much is a very good civ bonus. Cannot overstate that. They now get normal adjacency from city centers and rivers. They used to not get adjacency from rivers. Wait, this is just vanilla Mali? I don't think these bonuses are correct. Yeah, all of the bonuses here, these aren't the old patch. These aren't the new patch. I think this is vanilla Mali or something. It might be. Either way, the point is, this isn't accurate to either a new or old patch in-game. I don't know what's going on here. But, on the previous patch, Sugabas did not get extra adjacency from rivers, which was really weird because you had a unique commercial hub that had lower adjacency than regular commercial hubs a lot of the times. Okay, now it does. So you're back to having massive free inquiry golden ages, where your commercial hub adjacency is huge and you get science from it. That's cool. Mansa Musa, banking grants plus 1 trader capacity. Cool. I think that was already on it. Holy sites grant plus 1 adjacency to Sugabas. They removed that from Mali, or no, that was already on this. Documentation doesn't make sense. They removed it from Mali is the point. This used to be on Mali, and now it's on Mansa Musa. Holy sites grant +1 adjacency to Sugabas, right? So you put all of your holy sites and your Sugabas together. It might sound like, why would they move this from Mali to Mansa Musa? Because they're reworking the two leaders, right? Mansa Musa, this guy, is now the holy site Mali. He goes holy sites. The other one, as we'll see later, will not be building holy sites anymore. Right, and then extra production towards holy sites in its building. Sundiata Keita. This was the meme civ. This is the worst civ in the game on the previous batch. Markets have 2 slots for books, unchanged. Patronage of great people costs 30% less gold from 20. Good change, right? You still were barely ever gold buying great people. Now it's like more affordable. Right? And what is it? Theaters give adjacency to Sugabas, and Sugabas give adjacency to theaters. Okay, so instead of holy Sugabas into holy sites, or holy sites into Sugabas, you now go Sugabas into theaters. This is how you play them. You go, like, 3 Sugabas, and then you, like, go Government Plaza and 2 theater squares. Those will be your first 6 districts, generally. Right? And you're gonna get massive Sugaba and theater square adjacency. And now that you're actually incentivized to build theater squares with the extra adjacency, you can actually get books. This guy had bonus yields on books, but had no bonuses towards generating great writers. Right? Now they're incentivized to go theaters. That's cool. They can actually get great writers. And books now give +4 gold and +2 culture, which is better than +4 gold and +2 production, especially when you have a production malice, -15%. And cities with the Sugaba and theater get +1 great writer point. Another buff to great writer generation for the guy who gets extra book yields. I've heard this civ is actually very, very good right now. I have heard Sundiata Keita went from being like the worst civ in the game to being like an above average civ on the new patch. I will definitely look into playing them. We might finally get the Mali civ spotlight that people have been begging for now that it's actually playable in BBG. Okay, so what we have looked at so far has been some of the smaller changes. This is the biggest set of changes, the governor rework. Let me load into game, because while they haven't updated the in-game text, I'll just pick whatever that we can load in the game. They haven't updated the in-game text for governors, or for anything except governors, but they have updated the in-game text for governors on the beta patch. So I can show you what it looks like in-game. Basically, they killed Magnus internals. We had an old meta where you would always go Magnus first. You would go Magnus, you would build a ton of commercial hubs or harbors, you'd send all your... What a crazy spawn. You would go Magnus, you send all your trade routes internally to them. Nerfed. No longer do you get +2 production on all trade routes sent to a city on the right side promotion. Right? It's now a left side promotion requiring the food promo. That's already a nerf. And then, once you get these two, you don't get the settlers train in the city do not consume population. They used to couple the bonus production on trade routes to the settlers train in the city don't consume population. Magnus internals were like the hard meta for years. Like, people would open Magnus 3, they go right side promotion for prod, and then left side promotion for food on internal trade routes. Send all their trade routes to Magnus. I've covered this a million times. It was the meta. It's not the meta anymore. And they nerfed this. No longer do you get extra yields on plot harvest and feature. Like, the plot harvest and feature removals are now 40% extra yields from 50%. So that's a big nerf. Less extra chop yields. So yeah, Magnus is dead. Yay. What that means is that the meta's in chaos. People have no idea what they're doing. There's so many different build orders going around. I can make predictions, but I'm not going to make a guide when I don't know what people are going to settle on. Because they're still changing things so much. Right? So we'll go over how you do use Magnus now, right? You could grab these right side promotions for some extra production in a city, and then vertical integration later. Or, rotate them around for chops. And in some spawns, if you're very low on food, like if you have a spawn that's full plain styles, bunch of 1-3 hills, 1-2 hills, plains everywhere with like very little food, you would go Magnus 2 for the extra food, right? Send internal trade routes to him and play Magnus internals just without the extra prod. That's also still playable. Okay. Now, look at the other ones. We'll go in the order that they listed them here. So Liang. Here we go. They changed something here. This used to be a level 3 promotion. I think they switched the order of these two. Housing Boom and Zoning Commissioner used to be in different order. Now they're like this. Liang Megacities might be back. There used to be a strat where you just go full Liang, back when she used to have the +1 production on cities resources on a level 2 promotion. You would go like Liang and then just take like Liang 3 early. You'd go boom, bam, bop with your first 3 governor titles, get a really big productive capital, and that's how people would play. That might be back. Maybe. That might be playable again. Now that you can get that 3 governor titles instead of having to go all the way down for this 4th one, like you used to get the +1 production on cities revealed resources. So, interesting change. No other changes to this governor, really, aside from swapping the order of these 2 promos. Moksha. So, this guy, they gave him internal trade route bonuses. This is the thing. You now get domestic, +2 culture on domestic trade route sent to the city with the right side promotion. I don't know how this will affect the meta. I don't know how often you'll go for this. I know some civs that'll go for this, like Norway. Norway gets bonuses to holy sites and to harbors, so you go holy site harbor in every city. They also get adjacencies from each other or whatever. Norway probably goes monumentality with Moksha and holy sites into harbors, and then goes the internal promotion, internal trade route promotion on Moksha and trades to it. Other civs, I don't know. Left side promotion still probably better for monumentality civs. Okay. Cool. They also have this level 3 promotion, which gives even more trade route or even more domestic trade route value on Moksha. I don't think you're ever going this. I don't think you go Moksha 3. You go Moksha 2 if you're doing internal trade routes, and then leave it at that. 3 governor titles, like this extra governor title for just an additional +1 culture for every trade route, is not worth it. Okay. Pingala. Only change here that they haven't updated in-game text. The only change here is +1 food on his internal trade out promotion. Other than that, he's the same as last patch. Doesn't change much. You dump titles in him in the mid-game for extra science. Or if you go Oracle early, you go for the Grants promotion, right? That's the same as before. Extra great person points generated in a city from Wonders. You go Oracle, it generates a ton of great person points. Same as before. You'd use them no differently. Victor. Pretty much the same as before. Main difference is here, he has the nuclear weapon project promotion. This used to be on Magnus. Magnus used to get extra prod on nuclear weapon projects. Now it's on Victor. Will you ever actually go this promotion for that purpose? Maybe. Particularly, you're not doing this to build the nukes, because you're building nukes in a lot of cities if you're doing that. You're doing this to run the Manhattan project itself, which unlocks building nukes. This is very expensive. Both Operation Ivy and Manhattan project benefit from this 50% extra production. So maybe you'll use it for that purpose in the late game sometimes. Not a big change overall. And it's not like any of my viewers ever get to the late game and start building nukes or anything, so you know. Amani. They had to revert this, so they haven't updated the in-game text to reflect this. But in the sea change, so let me show you. This is what it was on patch 5.9a beta. They gave her this. You already had +2 food and +2 production on trade routes to a city-state she's established in. Then they gave her this. Your trade routes have a trade. Your cities have a trade route to the city, gain an additional +1 food, +1 production, +3 gold. This made civs that could send had bonuses to external trade routes right away very, very good. Like Kublai Khan gets extra yields on international trade routes from the start of the game. Very good with Amani externals to a city state. Netherlands gets extra yields on external trade routes to the start of the game. Very good with Amani externals. Right? And the city state of Kumasi, which gives extra yields on trade routes to city states, was broken. Like objectively, way, way, way too good with this. It was insanely good with this promo. And what did they do? If we scroll down to the C patch, they removed this right to Amani. The right side second promotion, that is this one, removed. Now it's just +3 Diplo favor and +3 influence points per turn. Yeah. Maybe it's decent in teamers for contesting city states, especially with Monarchy, which multiplies all, if you see here, +50% influence points. This gives decent city state control. But yeah, rip the overpowered Kumasi Amani externals. It was around for like 4 days before the C patch came out, and they removed that promotion. Okay. And now the star of the show, the king, the queen of the governors on patch 5.9, Reina. What they changed on her is, in compared to the previous patch, is they gave her a trade route capacity here. All domestic trade routes sent to her city also get +4 gold here. And then they buff this. +2 science and +2 culture for foreign traders going through the city. To be clear, that's traders sent from other civilizations through our city. So your own traders passing through the city won't give the yields. Only traders from other civs. This is a crazy good promotion in the mid to late game once everybody starts sending externals to each other. Even in FFA, you're always going to want Amani with this promotion at some, or Reina, sorry, with this promotion at some point. For a while, the meta was just Reina 3, because trade out capacity here, trade out capacity here. Oh, I get 2 free trade out capacity early. I'm going Reina 3 with my first 3 promos. It was insane. This caused like actual issues with the meta, with people having way too much gold. And just in general, people are complaining like crazy in teamers because everybody was just running Reina internals for the +4 gold and for the extra trade out capacity, and you'd additionally get +2 gold on each unimproved or breathtaking feature in our city, and +2 gold per turn for each citizen in the city. So both teams basically had like infinite gold, so they'd have like infinite units. They could just keep making units and never go negative gold per turn. They could always afford to gold upgrade to the next level instantly. It was a problem. So, scroll down, C patch. Boom. They just removed the right side promotion buffs. This no longer gets a trade route capacity on the C patch. You don't get a trade out capacity here, right? And you don't get +4 gold on domestic trade routes. Both of these were just removed. But they buffed the left side promotion. So now, when you take this left side promotion, you get an extra trade route capacity if the city has a market and a lighthouse. So you'll actually probably want to do that. Market and or a harbor and commercial hub in their same city, especially because they get adjacency bonuses from each other, I think. Commercial hubs get extra from harbors. Yeah, they get +2 for each adjacent harbor tile. And she doubles the adjacency, and you go free inquiry, so you're getting science from both of their adjacency. You get a massive amount of science this way. But yeah, rip the brief moment in time period, or the brief period in time for 4 days before they removed it, where Reina gave 2 trade route capacity for 3 governor titles. Absolutely bonkers. Still, you always want Reina somewhere at some point by like turn 70 or whatever with foreign exchange, such that a ton of trade routes from foreign civs are passing through her city. You'll get a ton of extra yields this way. Okay, cool. Very last change of the patch. Not the last change, actually, because there's some stuff in the B patch we have to cover afterwards. Ibrahim. This is the unique governor of Suleiman Kanuni. This governor can only be taken by Suleiman Kanuni. It's one of his leader bonuses. He's an Ottoman leader. They buffed it a lot for simming. Now you actually just go straight for him early, because level 1 promotion, +1 culture and faith for pop in the city, right? Just a better version of Moksha's promotion, right? Level 2 promotion, +1 science and +2 gold per population in the city. Just a better version of Pingala's promotion. This is basically becoming a better version of base game Pingala. And now only Kanuni has access to it. So if you ever pick the Ottomans, Suleiman Kanuni, consider going Ibrahim 3 right away. Very good. Then his final promotion was also changed. +5 housing and amenities in his city, which is a lot. Like, that is a lot. That is very good. I think people will sleep on how good that is. Your capital is basically guaranteed to be +5 amenities with this. And because your capital is +5 amenities, your luxury resources will get rearranged to go to needier cities, because it distributes them to the neediest cities in your empire. So it might raise the amenities of all of your other cities in the process when you take this promotion. Very, very good. The right side promotions are unchanged from the previous patch of BBG, aside from the order being reversed. Right? They changed the order. So, very, very good for war. +1 movement for units within 10 range of the city. All allied friendly units within the city's territory gain +3 combat strength. And then grants all units within 10 tiles of the city center +10 combat strength in attacking defensible districts. To be clear, defensible districts are just encampments and the city center. And Gaul's unique district. Just those 3. Right? Ibrahim was like really, really good for war already. You'd put him in a border city. You get +1 movement all your units. You get +10 combat strength on hitting city centers. This was on the same civ that has access to Janissaries, and it made Janissaries just delete cities instantly. You'd give them a siege tower with a +10 against cities. With the fact that Janissaries are already really strong, they just slam cities and kill them like instantly. Does the same thing as before. I don't think the fact that they changed the order these promotions are in really matters. You usually want both anyway. Yeah. Okay. So, a couple more things. B patch, right? I already covered some of the stuff from the B patches where they changed other civs that were already earlier. But there's some stuff I didn't cover, alright? Mansa Musa no longer gets trade route from a number of desert tiles in the origin, or no longer gets gold on trade routes from the number of desert tiles in the origin city. Okay. Probably still a good civ. I don't think that's a big, that's a killer nerf. Trajan. This was intended to nerf him. Let me back out to the main menu. Okay. What they wanted to do was nerf Trajan here, but they didn't have the intended effect. So, currently in BBG, or in the patch 5.8, before the beta patch, all founded cities get a free monument building after unlocking the Code of Laws civic, right? Code of Laws is the first civic in the game. You get it on turn 8 on online speed, right? You're always getting this on turn 8. So they delayed it to foreign trade, which is the second civic you'd get in the game, right? This is what you'd get usually on turn 15 or 16 or whatever. You'd think this is a nerf, but it's not really, because one of the problems with getting the free monuments in every city Code of Laws is that you'd get so many civics so quickly that it'd make your districts more expensive, right? By the time it came to place your commercial hubs, you'd already have 6 civics unlocked, and that would, because districts get more expensive the more civics you have unlocked, your commercial hubs are more expensive than other civs. Delaying it to foreign trade was intended to nerf him, but it kind of buffed him, because now he still gets free monuments in every city fast enough to get to political philosophy before the end of the first era. He's still always hitting political philosophy in the ancient era, still always getting the era score for doing so, still getting monuments for most of the game. But now his districts are cheaper because he's not getting a huge influx of culture early that forces him to unlock a ton of civics very quickly. So, honestly, this might be a net neutral change. It didn't really work to nerf him. And I think the BBG team has admitted as much in their council discussion, where they discuss stuff on the server. Spain, combat strength against civilization with a different religion reduced to +3. So if you look here, Spain just gets +5 against every civ following a different religion for free right now in the old version. That's like way too much to get for free in all combat. That's ridiculous, especially on a civ that already has good simming bonuses. Hello. Like, these are good simming bonuses. The civ could put up good stats. It doesn't need such an insanely powerful war bonus. So yeah, nerf to +3. Fair. And yeah, all of these I already covered. Some bug fixes. Balance changes already covered. Sion Duck got buffed. Wuzetion got changed. Drums of War doubled the culture on kill. I covered that earlier. Reyna, the governor, got her trade route capacity removed. Amani, we got the extra yields on her external trade routes to her city-state removed because it was too good with Kumasi specifically in general. Some bug fixes, yeah. And also, if you play the game in Chinese, French, Korean, or Russian, congratulations. You can actually see all the changes. I can't. This is in English. They haven't updated the in-game text in English for the beta version. They will for the live version. Let me be clear. When they comes time to retitle this from BBG 5.9 beta to BBG 5.9 like live, they'll update all the in-game text. So we won't have to worry about these inconsistencies anymore. Yeah, so my predictions. Overall, culture civs are better, right? I'll go back in, right? Culture civs are better because techs cost more. And Oxford University is in the civics tree, not the tech tree. The game will be slightly slower overall because techs cost more. Unique units in the civics tree, like Mounties and Winged Hussars, are going to be stronger because techs cost more. Culture Victory is more viable because techs cost more. Drums of War is a good third Golden Age dedication now. Not first or second in FFA. You're still going Penbrush and Voice into free inquiry most of the time. But then third, you can choose Drums of War over Reform the Coinage. Now that you're getting staggering, like, what is it, 50%? 50% of a culture, or 50% of the combat strength of every unit you kill in culture, right? And one thing that I really like is fast fascism civs. Like civs that have really high culture yields. Like, some examples are civs that are already getting directly buffed here, believe it or not. Pericles and Kin Mandate of Heaven can both get insanely high culture early game, rush straight for fascism, and kill somebody. This is better than ever, right? Because if you go fascism and you go combustion, and you hit somebody who went for research labs, right? They went in research labs so they could win science victory, and you went for combustion, which is going to give you less science in the long run generally, but you went fascism, you just kill them, because the amount of time it takes to get to units that can defend is longer now, because all the techs are more expensive. These greedier tech pathings are more vulnerable, right? This was what happened in both my first and second games on this patch. So I played 3 games. I'll upload the first game soon. You'll get to see how, I killed somebody. I went ballistics first, and then killed somebody who clicked industrialization. It took him too long to get to ballistics to defend himself. He eventually did, but it was too little too late. I'd already killed like 2 cities. He was losing the war. And then later, in that same game, I went combustion, and I killed somebody who had research labs because it took them too long to get to steel, right? Normally, previously, you get research labs, and you'd have so much science, and the techs would be so cheap, right? And you would just go 1 tech per turn all the way to steal, you'd be fine. You could defend against combustion. Now that's not the case. A guy clicked labs, I clicked combustion, I killed him. I pillaged all of his tiles for science and caught up in techs because of it. And by the end, I wasn't even behind in techs compared to the research lab greeters. And that game was also a Drums of War Renaissance era game, so I got a ton of culture from killing units. It'll be very interesting. I'll be uploading it shortly. Thanks for tuning in. That about sums up my feelings on the new BBG patch. And, yeah. See ya.